The trial of a former Oshkosh West student is now underway with jury selection. Grant Fuhrman, now 20 years old, faces one count of attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Prosecutors say he stabbed a police liaison officer back in December of 2019. Jason Zimmerman has been in the courtroom for day one of the proceedings. He's live in Oshkosh. Jason.
Brittany, more than 90 people were in court today for selection as potential jurors. That number right now is in the process of being trimmed down to just 15, which is what's needed for a trial. This trial is expected to last about 3 weeks. Now, Grant Fuhrman, who was 16 at the time of the incident, is accused of stabbing Officer Michael Wissick during a confrontation in Wissick's office. The officer then shot Fuhrman once. Both were taken to the hospital, treated, and released. The incident led to an evacuation of the school, and classes were canceled for the next 2 days. Since then, there's been a number of trial delays. The most recent was last May, right after a school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Fuhrman's attorney felt it would be difficult to find a jury that was not biased in the aftermath of grieving. Today, a series of questions were posed to potential members of the jury, like this one concerning the extended time frame of the trial schedule.
I can't give you a particular number of days, but that is the general anticipation for this trial. Knowing that, are there any of you who have very pressing appointments or engagements?
And Fuhrman has said that he never intended to kill the officer. He just thought that the officer would pass out from the bleeding. Again, we do expect opening statements tomorrow, but that is if a jury is picked and selected at some point this evening. Reporting live in Oshkosh, Jason Zimmerman, Action 2 News.